Welcome back to Retro Wednesday, the Tide Fan. This is Mike. Today we are continuing that mission, the fourth week of reviewing everything from the vintage G.I. Joe Real American Hero toy line from 1982 to 1994. And with that, we're looking at 1985 today. With 1985, this is probably the best year of G.I. Joe. Some could argue it's 86. Some could even argue it's 87. But these 3 years we're in were stellar years. But this year had the biggest thing going on ever made in G.I. Joe. We'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at every single thing in here for the vintage 1985 G.I. Joe toy line. Coming up. Alright, first up we have Airtight, which adds a nice color breakup to the shelf, and since these don't come with stands, I just put them on a yellow stand because I thought that made a lot of sense to break up his color or break up his stand. Just come with a nice green and black on him. But one thing I didn't know about him was that he came with this, without knocking him over, I'll probably knock him over, he came with this breathing hose. Now if his backpack pops off, then that breathing hose comes out. It's a challenge to keep this breathing hose in order. And with that, it's an interesting kind of a dark green, kind of a, not a dark green, more of a tan green backpack. And this isn't a laser, it's more of a biohazard cleanup is my understanding of his weapon. Anyhow, it's a pretty cool figure overall. Very simple and plain, but the fact that he's yellow, that yellow definitely pops. And then the paint app's on there. His helmet's not removable, so you can't lose that. So it really only comes with his backpack, his gun attachment, and 2 hoses. And so with that, relatively easy to complete figure, but one that is really kind of cool, Airtight. Next up we have Alpine, which he's got to definitely takes the award for the most accessories of all year. Now, he has this triple handle Uzi. It's really more like a 2-handle Uzi with a clip in the middle. And I think it's specific to him, but it gets reused down the road. But I think it gets reused in the newer line, the more of a modern line. He does have this this pickaxe to help him for climbing and all that kind of good stuff. And he also has sort of a grappling hook launcher, so he's all about the climbing. And then he does come with a 2 grapples and a string. So this is the best way I can think of putting all this gear on him. And you're going to see with my collection that I want every single accessory that comes with a figure on them. And I've gone through extreme lengths in the 90s to accomplish that. So this is really the only figure I've had challenges with getting everything on, and I got it all on there. But Alpine is such a cool figure. He has what looks to be rope that's like etched into him, so it's in the detailing on the figure itself, and they include a rope and a grapples. So he's got a lot of accessories, kind of fun, cool stuff. Really, the hat, I'm so glad the hat's just molded in. Got glasses molded in. None of that stuff was extra accessories, nothing else that you could lose. But he's still a bit challenging to get everything for him complete. Probably the grapples are the hardest part, but Alpine was so much fun. Of course, we're going to see Bazooka here in just a bit, but I'm going in the order of yojo.com, so we have to look at Barbecue next. But this was Alpine. And here's Barbecue, and if I might have covered Barbecue last week, I don't remember, but I had him mixed in with last week's figures, and I thought, wait, hold on a second. He's in 1985. Like, we're going back to the future here. Anyway, here is Barbecue, which he's kind of got this orange look to him, and it sort of makes sense. He does kind of feel like a firefighter in a way, and with that, he's got this on the back. I used to think it was a propane tank, which didn't make any sense for a firefighter to have a propane tank, but he's probably got something else in there that would put out fires. There's his little fire extinguisher in his hand there, which I think I might have got this off a later version. It might not actually be. Let me feel on it. No, there's another one that I've got that's like off a later version, and it's soft. It's like rubbery. This is hard, and then the rubbery one is the one that would be on a later version, which I thought was really weird. Anyway, and of course he's got his axe, which has paint. So very few accessories in the vintage line has paint, but his axe has paint on the edge there, and he's pretty cool. I'm glad that he doesn't come with like an extra breathing hose or anything else like that. He just comes with the standard tubing that... It's like bracelet making tubing nowadays is what they call it, but this is Barbecue. Such a cool fun figure, sort of the counterpoint to Blowtorch. Here's Bazooka, Alpine's buddy, and as far I've checked like 4 times now to make sure he has the correct bazooka. And I will kind of hold him over here because when we get the Footloose, Footloose has a bazooka also, but they're different. And his has more of like a narrowed tip at the end, like it looks like it. And then here's where the actual missile would come out. So this is like the tip of the missile. Anyway, it's on a strap. Strap could be broken sometimes. Kind of sucks. He does have a jersey on. Forgot what team they said that was. He's number 14. And then he does have a removable helmet, which I'm starting to get sick of removable helmets. As cool as the idea is, tracking them down to complete a collection of 500 figures is not fun or easy or cheap. So that's a pain. Anyway, there's his backpack. I think it's about the same color green that we saw with Spirit, but it's also sort of the same color green as his pants. And yeah, pretty cool figure overall. Bazooka's a good figure, solid figure, and I want to say that I will have him next to Alpine in my display, but I set my whole display up following theyojoe.com so I can find my figures. I have an idea where each character is, because there's a lot of figures, it gets a lot crazy, but this is Bazooka with his mustache. So this is Dusty, and I think this is the first appearance of soft goods in the G.I. Joe toy line. And the soft goods was his hat. Now, I forgot the exact term for this, but it's just sort of like something to keep the dust out of his face when he's in the desert. And he's got desert fatigues. It's kind of like he's going to the Middle East or something like that. I mean, that's how they started changing over the uniforms. I remember that in the 90s, but this was an 85 figure. So, of course, obviously they did have this military garb back then. There's his backpack, which is kind of cool. They reuse all this stuff when they remake him for the Tiger Force. And just like they did with Barbecue. Now, his weapon is kind of simplistic. It's just like a little gun. There's a hole, if you see. Can you see a hole there? Yeah, a hole right there. There's a hole, and that's where the bipod goes. Now, I had 2 bipods. 2 guns, 2 bipods. So I was one on him and one on my Tiger Force. They're both lost. Gone. I don't know. So I'm not buying another one. If I can't seem to keep up with one, I'm not responsible enough to take care of my toys. I don't know where they went. Seriously. But I did put all these in vehicles and stuff, so I might have to go rattle around vehicles, every vehicle, and try to figure out if it fell into a vehicle or something, which it probably did. That probably makes sense if they fell into a vehicle. But anyhow, I'm not going to lose any sweat. He does supposed to come with a bipod. I know I've got 2 of them floating around here somewhere. And this is Dusty. And what a fun figure. And they put camo on his face. All right, next up we have Flint. And I've got to say this is still fun because in 1985, I don't even need to write down the names to remember them. Like, there's a handful of them that I wrote down just because, in case I slipped up or something. But for the most part, I'm remembering all the names. We get in the 90s, I'm going to be depending on a list very heavily. But this is a cool figure. He always drops his little sawed-off shotgun there. So I put a rubber band on there to hold it on. And I used a lot of rubber bands holding a lot of accessories on figures as we get into heavy accessories or broken hands or the risk of breaking hands. That's just kind of how I did it. If it wears out over the next like 10 or 20 years, then it'll lose the accessory. But I do like his color scheme. He has got that black top, and it's like a green beret with a black beret, but it still looks really cool. What a cool looking figure. And if we didn't have so many figures to go through, I would show all of these compared to the repaints later. But when we get to the repaints, I'll show the repaints down the road and do special team videos. But this guy, a whole lot of fun, great looking figure, and I think is definitely a top-notch character in G.I. Joe. That's Flint. Putting him back, I noticed his backpack was on backwards. There is his backpack. I hope that's the right one. All right, next up we get the Footloose. Now, Footloose is an interesting figure because he's very traditional military, and he has a removable helmet, which he almost looks like the helmet's part of like camouflage, and he'd be wearing some sort of a suit there. I think they reused his head on a couple of other figures. Like, he looks kind of like the Rumbler. It also kind of looks like Claymore. I gotta look into that because the head looks very familiar. I remember they reused a lot of stuff from Footloose. Like, we reused this gun for Sneak Peek, but the bazooka I think is just specific to him. But there's his backpack, and I think they also reused his backpack for something. But there is Footloose. I think it's a pretty cool figure, and he's one of those that was kind of like easygoing and fun loving kind of character, but his weapons accessories, oddly enough, even though they came with two people, is still a bit of a challenge to get unbroken. All these ones, the straps break real easy. But Footloose, cool looking figure, very military-esque, and very much like something that you would feel is a realistic character, Footloose. All right, next we get into Lady J. Lady J is, I think, the only female character they made all year. I'm looking, I don't see any other female characters in this lineup, and I gotta tell you, another one I'm excited to get. As a kid, I was excited to get her. It was one of those things that she was in the show, very predominant character in the show, and kind of hard to find. I had trouble finding a Lady J when I was a kid, and now I guess I gotta go through. I have 2 or 3 of her. I gotta go through and find out which one's best. Look like I got some wear on the boots there, but I think they're all pretty tight. Weird thing is, I would have to say this for myself. I had her as a kid. I was excited when I found her at a garage sale, and she always was somewhere, but she never got a lot of play. She was in the scene or in the zone, but never got a lot of play. But still, pretty cool. She comes with like this, I think it's like a video camera, and then there's her backpack, and this is her like multi-use kind of bow. She had all kinds of different stuff she could use. But yeah, Lady J, so classic. Got that hat. I think it's supposed to be a blue hat, but mine looks like it's painted black. Still, really, really fun figure, Lady J. Next up, we have Quick Kick, and let's kind of get him where he's showing up. Everything's showing up on him okay. Yeah. Another one of my top figures that I like the most, and I gotta say, I like Spirit a lot, but I kind of put Quick Kick up. Once I finally got a Quick Kick, I thought, oh, that's definitely my adversary to Storm Shadow going forward, and Spirit was still cool, but man, Quick Kick, awesome. Funny thing is, I had a Quick Kick as a kid, of course, got it at a garage sale, so all I had was the backpack and the sword, and I didn't even know he came with nunchucks, and so a buddy of mine hooked me up with some nunchucks for this one, and I ended up getting another one, which I thought was a Fun School. But I will look at that here in a second. But let's take a look at this backpack and the sword. Sword goes into the backpack, which is cool. And I think this is like the perfect amount of accessories for a figure, especially from the 80s. You've got a backpack, a sword, you got some nunchucks, you got enough that he can do, and enough that if you're trying to track it down, it's not the end of the world. And yeah, that's pretty cool. Quick Kick is such a fun figure. I might have a Quick Kick problem because I have quite a few of them, and I like Quick Kick. There's really no need to troop build Quick Kick, but I want to show the difference in this one. I thought this one was Fun School. Somebody said it was from Brazil or India or something, but still a cool looking figure. The color of the skin tone is like pinker or peacher on this than this one here. So I'm not sure how the camera picks that up, but it is a different color, and it's just fun to have the variant on them, especially when it's a figure that you really like. Quick Kick. So what can I say about Shipwreck? Man, Shipwreck is the self-proclaimed ladies' man. He is the sailor. I don't remember him cussing in the cartoon like a sailor, but he is a sailor. He does have the tattoos to prove it, and that's showing up okay. He's got some tamper graphs on him. I think I actually have one that's a little nicer than this too, but this is the one I have that's got all the accessories on him. He has this boarding hook, which I guess he throws to help himself get onto a ship or something. They call it a boarding hook. And then he has this gun, of course, and it's got a strap on it, and it is kind of soft and malleable. I do see him broken a lot though, and I also see Polly broken. I got Polly on him on his arm, so really excited to have him finally complete. For a while there I was missing parts, but I had to complete them, and yeah, it's not worth the $70 people ask for them, but it might even be cheaper to just buy the parts separate as you come across them. But Shipwreck is kind of a cool, fun figure. People like to troop build him because for people with flags like to have a bunch of sailors on their flag and just like call them different names. Other things people can do is put different heads on them. It's like a bunch of sailors with different heads, but still, Shipwreck, cool figure, and love him or hate him. He's got fans, but he also got people that hate him. Shipwreck. Tonight we're gonna party like 1985 Snake Eyes. So this is my Snake Eyes. If every Snake Eyes before and every Snake Eyes after can never compare to this one. If there's going to be a modern iteration of Snake Eyes, it needs to be exactly this one for me. And I love this Snake Eyes, but that's my personal preference because I've played the heck out of him, and he was in the show. Now, I know this doesn't match his first appearance in the show, but later in the show, this is kind of what he looks like for the most part. And really, really, really a cool figure. Not only does he have the visor, which I love that about this character, that looks so much cooler than those weird looking goggles he was wearing, and all of his paint apps. He has silver on his wrist. He's got kind of a dark charcoal gray right here, but it's something to color break up the straight black, the jet black. There's no need to have it all jet black. Now, his backpack is still black. It's a thicker backpack than like the version 3 has a tiny little one, which almost looks the same as the Night Creeper, but this one is bigger. This is more like Storm Shadows that we see down the road. He does have this sword here. It's kind of a weird shaped sword. Mine's seen better days, but I still have one, and I've had it for a long time. I think I might even have my childhood one in my childhood box. I'll have to find out. People want stupid money for that sword, but the Uzi's pretty cheap. The backpack's pretty cheap. It's just that sword is that. And then getting him unbroken, because he's another one. This cool of a character, this cool of a version of a good character is heavily played with. So you get a lot of them that have broken crotches, thumbs, and just looser than heck and won't stand up. So getting a good one is challenging. That actually is one of my friend's dad's childhood one. That's how I got a good one. This is Timber, and there's a lot of Timbers out. He's not really that expensive. For whatever reason, however expensive this figure is, Timber is heavily abundant. I don't know if there was another way to get him or something, but cool, fun figure, Snake Eyes. Alright, I am going to change up my format, I guess, but I'll be showing all the figures if they're drivers, and I'll show their vehicle, and then when I'm done with all the figures, I'll show the remainder of the vehicles. I think that's the best way to do this. Saves time and efficiency here. But here we are with Crankcase, and he's kind of a boring, mundane figure, to be honest. But he does come with kind of this gray hat that we've seen before, and it's a similar hat to others we've seen, like Rumble has it, I think, and a couple of others. And yeah, he's got a green shirt, he's got suspenders, he's got some red stuff on the top of his suspenders, he's just got some khakis with a gun molded in the side, and not much going on, some brown boots. Then he's got this gun here, which is very specific to him. I don't know anyone else that has this. I think later on, of course, they reuse this and recolor it for some different ones down the road, but specifically that's his gun. And he was packed in with one of my favorites. I have trouble calling everything my favorite, but one of my favorite vehicles, which is the AW Striker. Now, that's not an overstatement. It is really awesome. The Dune Buggy, my dad used to ride Dune Buggies with one of his friends all the time, and it was like one of those things that I remember. It stands out in my head from when I was a young kid, of course. He's got these giant antennae, which are going to get lost and all that, but there we go. Mine are kind of bent up. Probably all of them are at this point. He does have these headlights. This should have been like Beachcomber, transform into a Beachcomber, not a Bumblebee, but that's not what they did. Still kind of cool. Still have the clear stuff on that one. It does have some movable wheels, but anyway, this is Crankcase AW Striker. Such a fun toy, and I'm glad they reissued it at Walmart for the retro, and that was a great way to get one. I never opened mine though, because it's nice to have one in the box. Next up we have Frostbite and the Snowcat, and the Snowcat is something that everybody wants to have a Snowcat in their collection, of course, because the Snowcat is pretty cool, and this is what people are asking for, claiming for the Classified collection. But let's take a quick look here at Frostbite. Frostbite is dressed all in white. He's got some fuzzy, furry stuff in sort of tan around his chest and on his hat. It's not removable, so that's awesome. So you find these kind of yellowed, and that's just kind of what happens to these figures that are all super white. And there's his gun. It's a very specific gun for him. And I think they do reuse that one down the road a bit. But yeah, pretty cool figure. He's very simplistic. And then we get into his Snowcat now. This thing has these 4 launching missiles up top. And in this missile launcher, it rotates and up and down, and this thing easily breaks. Then we have this, which is you can launch a missile like I don't get it. You're supposed to launch the missile on a sled piece. That's real weird. And then we have, I don't know what this clear piece here is. It's like a light. It's supposed to be some sort of light. And then you have a windshield wiper, which if this piece is broken, your wiper's not going to do you any good. So it's all about the canopy. And then in here, of course, you store the figure. But you have a, it could be for two. Shipwreck could take his date out on it. But yeah, Snow-Cat. It does look like it has treads, but it doesn't really have treads. And it has a tow hook, so you can tow stuff. So, Snow-Cat with, of course, Frostbite. And all this was redone for Tiger Force down the road. We'll be looking at that in a couple of weeks. Alright, next we have Heavy Metal with the Mauler. And we're starting to get into some big money these days, I guess, to get this thing in decent shape. It is one of those vehicles that is a bit of a challenge, but so is the figure in a way. Get him with his weapon, and there's his weapon, and his mic. So those are the problematic parts of this figure. But he is a cool looking figure. He almost looks like you could consider him with the black jacket of his and a little bit darker pants. Almost looks like something that could be a Night Force figure already. So that is interesting. But he's a cool looking figure overall. Mine's been played with a lot. It was a childhood favorite of my friends, and somehow I just never ended up with a second one of these to put. This is one that was in the vehicle, and I had to pull them out for the display stand, and so now I don't have one in the vehicle, which does kind of suck. So getting into the vehicle, let's get him out of the way so nothing falls off of him. And here is the Mauler. Now I am missing the long antenna, which I know Philip had it when I got it from him, but I don't know where it went. So digging through all the parts. The parts were all just in one bag, and I didn't know what went to what at first, so it took me a while to figure it all out. But anyhow, it's somewhere around here. It is a pretty good sized tank. It's bigger than the Mobat, and it has a little bit more going on with it. And you've got these things here, which I think they're missile launchers, or they throw out like a grenade launchers. Not exactly sure what they are, to tell you the truth. They kind of look like exhaust, but I bet you they're grenade launchers. We also have this, okay, it's a tow cable, and I still have no idea what to do with the tow cable other than to put it on here and not let it break. That's my goal here, is to not let it break, let it stay on there. And then we have opening and closing canopy. So this feels like a real tank. This is something you'd see in a real tank, and so it's so much better than the Mobat for that purpose. Now, I don't see very many tanks this color, but you do see tanks this color. Just I don't see very many of this color. And it has opening and closing panels, so you can take the panel off. You can work on the engines like they do with all of these. And you can raise this up and down. I don't think anything really does anything with that. And then the back. We have all these little pieces here. They're sort of like mud flaps for this. And let's show quickly what it does. Now, I don't have batteries in this one, and because I don't want to mess it up. I know it works, I just don't have batteries in it. But I keep batteries in the one my son plays with. All right, to make it work, you simply just push this lever here back. And that's what it does. I don't know. Alright, next we get into Captain Killhall, and I have to say that this figure and his ridiculous gun that's hard to get is... I'm going to have to do this a little bit different, because I can't just put the flag right behind him. And I'm not going to do this filming on the flag, so I'm going to do this, then go jump to the flag, then we'll move on to the next thing. The next figure, next character. Cool looking figure. He commands quite a bit of money. I got a good deal on him at a local toy shop. Another one of these. I got some seriously good deals at local toy shops, and I would just suggest shop local, check your local toy shops and see if they give you deals, especially with sales. Anyway, this is a tough one to get. I'm just shocked with the level of condition, because I have another one and it's way rough, and I spent almost twice as much on that one as I did on this one, and so I'm really happy to have gotten this one. And then of course trying to track down this stupid gun. I don't lose it. But let's see the flag. He is the captain of the flag. let's check out that flag. Okay, so you're going to get a little bit of extra fun in this. You get to see sort of the display. I'm far from done with the display, but I'm just going to redo this whole area. Here is the flag. This is not a full review. It's just a quick overview of this 69. Lots of fun. I almost have 2 flags that I could put together. I have got parts, because as I put this one together, I never stopped looking for flag parts, and I found better ones. So that's kind of how it worked out. The tower is kind of cool. You got the boat over there. The mast is a challenge and a half. There's both versions of keel haul. This is the keel haul review. And then I do have the love boat over here because I feel like the love boat feels like it set sail out here. And just the way I put it up there, it feels like it's just another boat in the ocean. Or at least it does to me. I don't know where else I'd put the love boat. And then I will come over here to the tactical battle platform. Is that what it's called? Which is kind of a offset of the... it's kind of crazy. It's just used for storage right now. I'm going to do display teams on it and stuff. I'm going to have Night Force and the Sky Patrol and all that stuff on here. But this is sort of an offset. So we can talk about both of these. It's an offshoot. So if you didn't get the flag, you had this. But yeah, the flag. And most people like to raise the flag and put the extra platform underneath it. I have never done a review of it. Probably never will. There's too many other good reviews out there, and it's just a fun $2,000 toy table. Alright, next we get Tollbooth and the bridge layer, and Tollbooth comes with this ginormous, oh, it's not a hammer, it's a sledgehammer, and he's a cool looking dude. Well, he's actually kind of simple looking. He looks like someone you'd catch doing construction work. I'm not sure why. To drive this, he needs a hard hat on, but maybe, yeah, the hydraulics and stuff that he uses on this. Now mine's not 100% complete. I mean, the figure is. He looks okay. He's got his like orangish pants on and his super bright orange hat. What do you come from the 90s or something? By the way, we'll talk about the 90s, and the neon is the least of the 90s issues. It's actually the cooler part of the 90s. Here is the bridge layer. Now mine is missing the money piece, which I didn't realize that was an expensive part when I ended up picking this up, but okay, well, we live, we learn, and then we buy loves. Here we go. It comes down, turns into that. This is the, I was using that part to help hold that up. Yeah, but it's pretty simple. It's got 2 guns on it. It says G.I. Joe. You got all this mechanisms up here. You got 4 wheels. I think I've only got 3 on mine. It's very simplistic, easy vehicle. But the big point of this is the bridge laying feature. And I actually use this in my display for a long time. I use this as a bridge. I connected 2 different things with the bridge, and I had 2 different displays, and this in the middle and the bridge layer on top, which I thought was such a cool way to do it. I actually think I had the Havoc on top, but anyway, it's a cool idea, and you can unclip that piece I'm missing from here and just have the bridge on there. So it's kind of a cool toy overall. The execution of the toy might not have been the greatest, but the bridge layer still stands out in my mind as one of the greater vehicles, for the fact that they could lay a bridge everywhere. But it's such a small bridge. I wish it was like twice as long. That's what she said. This is Starduster, and Starduster this is actually a black major. I saw one that was like 160, and I thought, do I want to spend 160? And I was like, no. Very few figures have I paid over $100 for in this line, and like I think 6 cost me either close to or above 100. And with that, I hated spending $100 on any G.I. Joe figure. It just feels weird for this little bitty figure to be $100. Well, this one's like 400 or something stupid. 25, and I got one that looks good enough for me. And the $160 one was all faded. So I'll talk about my collector integrity when it comes to this kind of stuff. But I think this looks fine. It's not great. It is a black major. And they're not the best, but they're not the worst. And to have it on my shelf just to look good, it looks great. Now, he has a composite of other characters and other figures. And I haven't gone through and tried to figure out whose legs they are and chest. I think it's Duke's chest. And there's some other stuff. But people have talked about the recipe of this guy. But for the most part, I'm just happy to have a representation on the shelf. And I don't need the original to feel complete. And actually, I sleep better at night knowing I only spent $25 and not like $400. So Starduster has very little to no meaning to me because I didn't even know it existed. And maybe I think I actually remember seeing the Melloways, and I was like, I didn't even think about it. It just didn't catch my eye because he wasn't in the show. But a lot of people really go after Stardust, and there's like 3 or 4 different variations of them. Okay, now we're going to get into the Crimson Guard, and we'll talk about a little bit about this tank behind it. But Crimson Guard is kind of cool, good looking figure, fun one to troop build. I didn't go too crazy with troop building them, and some of these aren't really in that great of shape. This one's probably the best one. I think I selected the middle one to be the best one, but he does come with this gun of his. Yeah, I think that's the right gun. I think I got the right gun on all of them. So that's one of those things. He has some really cool looking silver on him with, of course, the crimson color. He's got that mask, the paint apps on the head. He's got the red backpack. You do see accessory backpacks that come with different color accessory backpacks, but he is supposed to come with the red. And such a fun figure to true build. But I want to say that you know, there are collectors that collect G.I. Joe. They have 2 hobbies. They collect G.I. Joe, and at the same time they bash the 90s. So there's Joe collectors, and they bash the 90s stuff, called the Neon 90s and all that kind of stuff. This is called the Crimson Guard Immortal, and I've had it in my collection for a long time, but I didn't actually know the name of it, and it was one of those things where I didn't really pay close attention to the 90s. But this is a really cool looking figure, and he's sort of like a Crimson Guard leader in a way, immortal. I'll get more to the lore when we get to the 90s, but such a cool figure that I recently found out was kind of associated with Crimson Guards. Now let's get into looking at this vehicle, and this one is, they call this one the C.A.T. It's just literally a red and black repaint, recolor of the Mobat, and it's cool. It is cool, and it's one of those things I got from my buddy. It was a Sears exclusive from 1985, and when I looked it up, I was like, man, this is so cool to have this. I actually considered selling it off because it was going for some stupid money, but I decided to keep it because I like it that much, and what a cool vehicle. Also, there's the SMS red repaint that year, so no real reason to talk much more about it. I don't have it, but I guess I'll show the picture. Alright, next up we have the Dreadnoks. Now I'm going to do all 3 of these here at once, and I keep forgetting to show the card backs of my figures. So there's card backs. It's kind of fun to see the card backs and what's going on with them. Those are actually fun schools because the real ones are too expensive. I actually have a handful, like 20 of the originals. But let's get into Torch here. Now Torch is the one that I don't have it carded, but he is a really cool figure, and oddly enough, I thought I had one for both my Dreadnought display and my main figure display, which are 2 separate displays. And this is the only one I have, aside from my childhood one, which I will be restoring after I'm done with this fun venture we're in. But he has a backpack and a flamethrower, and he is pretty cool. Now these are all kind of like Mad Max type figures, the Dreadnoks. Love the faction, love all the Dreadnoks, and so they deserve their own display and second figures in the main display. That's just the way I'm rocking and rolling with these guys. Here we go with the next one here. This one is Ripper. He does come with 2 major weapons. He's got this laser blaster with some sort of a stabbing mechanism on the end there, a blade. Then he also has what's I guess you should look up what they call this, but I always thought it was kind of like something of concrete to break up the concrete. Anyhow, there's his backpack to operate it, and it's gas powered. Definitely using the petrol. They got to use the petrol because they don't have lithium-ion batteries in 1985 or in the post-apocalyptic era, which they're sort of based on the Mad Max theme. Then this one here is Buzzer. He's got his chainsaw, which is so much fun. And then he has this kind of pickaxe thing. Now it actually is supposedly something that's like on a chain, is the way I always looked at it. But anyway, there's his backpack. So cool, fun stuff, and then getting to see these carded in, even if it's just the fun school, it's still fun enough for me. These are the Dreadnoks. One last thing I want to show, though, is the 25th anniversary of these guys. Ooh, they don't stand up as well as I'd like, but I don't have very many 25th anniversary open. I keep all my 25th anniversary sealed because I want the carded representation. But these guys, I had to have a set to open because they are just that cool. And there it is, the Dreadnoks with their modern iterations looking good. Dreadnoks are so popular that the Classified series has almost knocked out all of the top Dreadnoks. We only have a handful of them to go, and we'll have all of the original vintage line completed and classified. You can't say that about any other faction that they've made. So awesome, awesome, and fans love them, especially me. All right, let's take a look at the Cobra Eel. And we're going to speed this along. We're going to take a look at the eel, and we're going to take a look at the night landing at the same time. Thought the eel was so cool back in the day. It was a eel. And it comes with a giant backpack. This piece is removable. I don't know why they did it like that. I don't know if it was a manufacturing thing or if it was a realistic thing. They try to make it more like reality. This breathing hose was a challenge to get. I actually had several of these for a decade with no breathing hose. And I was like, well, let me get a breathing hose on this guy. And then... it comes with these removable flippers, which I always was impressed with. I know Torpedo has it too, and Wetsuit, but it's so cool that he's got his flippers on him, and that is awesome. Love the costume, just really awesome figure. Remember when I first got one, I was so excited, and I never even thought about back in the day to troop build them. I was like, it was so hard to get my hands on one, let alone three. Now, of course, all my three are not in the greatest of shape. But they do ride in this night landing here, which is kind of just like a little mini boat. Kind of look at it as a inflatable boat or something along those lines. It does come with this motor on the end. It has some oars, a gun on the front. Comes with another gun and then a shovel. Also, it's got like a radio piece that I don't have, and then a knife, or maybe a knife or a machete or something. So kind of a cool little vehicle, but the eels are definitely one of the cool ones to troop build, and I've really only got one in good shape. The rest of them are just a bit discolored, but still I'm happy to have three. Three is my magic number of troop building eels. All right, next up we have the Snow Serpent, which is another fun troop builder figure, and I'm gonna say I really only have one 100% complete, but I got most of them mostly complete. It just looks good on a shelf to have a few of them, and with this I didn't really go after troop building them, but they look so cool. And here's the thing, they're not all straight white. There's white and tan accents and stuff. Then they come with this little submachine gun Uzi kind of thing. A lot of them do get the ends broken off, which kind of sucks. But it's got a Cobra symbol on there. It's got some black face covering. And then also goggles that are put up, like he could use them if he needed to. You know, the sun, when the sun's out, even if it's cold in the snow, it is blinding. I used to ski a lot, and it was something you never went skiing without your shades on, because you come home and you just can't see. You really tear up your eyes. But he comes with this front rubber parachute that straps onto the back. If you don't strap it on just right, then it kind of puts pressure on the backpack and can sometimes push the backpack off. It also has his kind of, I want to call it a bipod, but it's not really a bipod, but it's kind of what it is. It's for his mortar. It's kind of a resting thing for it. And then there's his backpack. So kind of cool. These guys are out survivalists and out in the middle of nowhere. It's nice to have a bunch of polar bear, Cobra, Snow Serpent. I guess we'll get into the snow vehicles for Cobra in future years. Next we're looking at Tomax and Zaymot, the Crimson Twins. These are technically the Crimson Guard leaders, but anyhow, they have very little crimson on them. And with that, they both come with the same gun. It's a ginormous gun. And they both have reverse opposite look to them. And these, I never went after them. I just kind of got them in collections, and I'd have them. And with that, they're probably not in the greatest shape, but it's kind of fun. Now, there is a zip line kind of thing. It's kind of I don't want to call it a grapple, but it's just a handle that's supposed to be sort of a wheel for them to slide down a piece of string that you supply yourself. I don't know where that piece is. I know I have a couple of them, and again, another thing I can't find. But they're mirror imaged of each other, which is interesting too, because the packaging is mirrored. Will be fun to get these with the Super 7 line. They're making them in the suits. They did make them in the suits in like a pack in the early 2000s or late 90s. Now we're going to see more of these figures when we look at the vehicles. See, I always thought it was fun to display them in Trouble Bubbles and on ferrets, and it's just kind of fun because if you have two and the Crimson Twins and their mirror image of each other, I always thought that was a fun gimmick. Crimson Twins, and they feel each other's pain. I feel your pain. We have a wide lens because we take a look at the Lampreys and the Moray. First, let's look at the figure, and I think he looks pretty cool. He's all in silver and some blue with a. He's got what appears to be a black visor, and so glad it's just molded in and a paint app, not actually something you have to chase down. He does come with a silver weapon we'll look at in just a bit, but he's a little simple overall, but still kind of cool. I do kind of like he's got these like vents on the side of his mask, his helmet, and then he has the strap on his weapon, which looks like kind of like a Uzi with a side clip in it. And yeah, that's pretty cool. Kind of fun figure overall. Glad to have them. And then, of course, we have to have some up here on the actual moray. It's really big. Couple of features on the moray. I'm not going to do everything, but you push this down, and you get these missiles up to launch. Let's get him out of the way. Yeah, missiles up to launch. You got side missiles here. You have a searchlight, which is always missing the little piece of glass in there. You have a bomb right here, laser guns. You can lift this up, put figures in there. You can put figures in the cockpit and the steering. I do have all these. I broke all of these. I don't know how I did it. Oh wait, hold on a second. That one's not broken. Oh yeah, I broke all of them. But I can fix them. I just never got around to it. Here it is from the back. Cool stuff in the back. You got depth charges. That's about as close to a review as I'm going to get on this guy, but it's still lots of fun. Oh yeah, you can just push this down to plop it out. I don't want to do that. It also has retractable landing gear. I always just leave it without it. Yeah, and this is the lampreys. I think it's kind of fun if you get a whole bunch of them and fill it up with lampreys. The driver, it just seems like you have a bunch of vipers. You have a bunch of lampreys. Alright, this is the Televiper, and he has his cool stuff here. It's kind of like I don't really know what this is. It looks like a megaphone, and he's out there cheering on the cheerleaders, but he's cheering on the Cobra. But I remember, the one thing I remember about him was that he would have like numbers and stuff go across his eyes in the cartoon, if that's the one I'm thinking of. And there is his backpack, which is very cool and unique to him. Now, they did reuse all of this for the Python Patrol, which makes it easier because it's pretty easy to get this guy and get him complete, which I only have one, which is weird. But he also comes with a hose, kind of wrapped it around so it's easier to display. But yeah, I almost forgot about this guy. He was on a different shelf. He was the one that wouldn't fit in 1985, but still kind of cool. And I didn't troop build him. I probably won't troop build him. It's just, I really don't have much tied to him, but it is kind of cool. And it is kind of cool that he's got the Python Patrol. We're going to start grouping these small vehicles together in quick segments. This is the Armadillo. It comes with a roll bar on the back. It's a tiny mini tank. What this is, a low price point tank, so in case you couldn't get the Mauler, then you could get this. And it keeps a green tank in there, and something that you could have 6 or 7 of and not break the bank. You can also put 2 figures on the back of it, which is kind of cool. That is the Armadillo. Funny that that's the name of, I think, the Thunder, Rolling Thunder's driver. Okay, this gets into the Mirage, Silver Mirage. It looks cool. One that is very hard to keep together, and it's hard to even keep these missiles on. It's a pain in the butt. I kind of set this up as like kind of like an homage to sort of Top Gun, which would be Falcon driving Jinx, or would be kind of like Maverick driving his instructor on his motorcycle. But then again, none of them had Sub-Zero tagging along. Anyway, you do have a sidecar and wheels. This kind of clips in here. You got missile. And then you also have these different smaller missiles on the back. In concept, it's a cool vehicle, but in reality, it is a serious pain in the butt to keep it together. Even picking it up to bring it over here, parts fell off of it. Anyway, that's the Silver Mirage, and this is the best one I have. I think I have 3 of them, and the other 2 I would consider showing. Nope, they're rough. Alright, this is the Ferret, and the Ferret is awesome. It is a really cool vehicle, a whole lot of fun to have, and I guess we'll look at the one that's in a little bit better shape. Oddly enough, I got one with kind of faded accessories and one with regular colored accessories. The pink. They actually made this in a bright blue also, which I have never come across one. And I'm sure they show up and they want a lot more. Generally, you get these for like between 35 and 50 complete, just depending on how complete. Complete enough to have the hose. I mean, it's always, let's see if we can get that in there. It's always more expensive to have the hose Hose are expensive. And then here we go with these guys. Now, I think I put the better ones on display, better figures on display, and lesser better figures in here. These, brother, I hate falling. Oh, missiles. As you can see, he doesn't want to hold in. These come off the sides. They're both the same. I guess you can do them whatever direction you want. And that is kind of cool, fun stuff. And this giant missile here, or a laser cannon here, removable piece here to store whatever. Zartan's mask. You've got the exhaust in there. And then for some reason, I always thought this controlled, oh yeah, it controls its front gun. That's kind of cool stuff. But they both do the same thing. And Cobra Ferret. So I want to say that I like this as one of my favorite vehicles also because I had it as a kid and because it was cheap, so you had them as a kid. But I was fascinated in the cartoon, in the show, fascinated me that they had these. And it was just kind of like one of those things that it felt like they took this vehicle for granted in the cartoon. And it was just so awesome. And yet, for me as a kid, I was like, I want to get one. It was forever for me to find one and get one. Once I got one, I have to say that I was still fascinated by it. As a cheap, low price point vehicle, it still fascinated me like crazy. There's so much to this. And so you got this little laser down here. And then you have the handle controller, which it looks like a little laser here too. Probably a control panel inside there, which is, am I missing something? No. Missiles on the side. These tabs easily break. You can open and close the canopy, the trouble bubble. It's also called a flight pod. And then here is the steering, which I don't know why they put this on here like this. Like they made this thing super fragile the way they did it. I would have said you should have made this one chunk, and that would have made it a lot easier. You would have a lot less problems with it, but it's still kind of cool. This gun down here should have just plugged in and not the way they constructed it. It's such a weird, strange, crazy construction. And I do want to show one more thing real fast. The modern iterations have a hose on it. It's almost the same, but they're not the same. And of course, you'll see them blue, you'll see them in camo and all kinds of different stuff going on. But this hose is one way, and then of course there'll be hose to join the hose. Also much larger lasers. I didn't know this when I went and just started collecting these like crazy. I bought the cheapest ones I could, and obviously they were the modern remakes. Also, these have a reverse tab situation, and vintage ones have like a slot tab. So it's a different. So hopefully that helps people if they're really wanting to collect vintage. For me, I didn't really care. I just wanted as many trouble bubbles as I could get, and I got into some trouble with it. But anyway, trouble bubbles, modern, the hose. I've got another one that fell off. Got to find it, but hose are expensive. All right, this is called the Weapons Transport, and it's got the quick kick in it. It's supposed to have another little compartment here that has a missile on it, and I think it's supposed to even have a gun right here. I don't have any of that. I actually have that gun somewhere. Anyhow, it doesn't really matter to me so much. I'll show some pictures of the rest of this stuff. And so the pictures of the rest of the stuff, we have a bomb disposal unit and a black version of the Snake. We've already looked at the flight pod and the Cobra Night Landing. I don't think very highly of the bomb disposal unit. It's not something I plan on ever picking up. In fact, I've kind of cold stopped on vehicles, but I might be borrowing some 90s vehicles. Anyway, the Black Snake, I'd actually pick that up. I don't view that as a vehicle. Welcome to Checkpoint Alpha. This is a kind of a gate where you gotta check in, and it's kind of cool. It's a realistic something that you would have. You'd also have up here, like, I'd probably have like a sniper up there or something, but it comes with some cool stuff like a gun, and it's got an antenna so they can communicate. You've got the video camera, and we've got this piece here. Now, none of these are from the other things we've looked at, like the headquarters or the tower. They have pegs system versus, which this is much better. I like this better, by the way, than what they did going on with the other. But you have to put them just in those pegs. You could put the other ones in pretty much anywhere you want. Now you also have some weird little data pad, like he's got a clipboard pushed into here, and then on the other side, what else is there? Oh, you got stairs or something. You can climb up this bad boy here. On that's Checkpoint Alpha in all of its greatness. And if it comes apart, it's a pain to get back together. This is air defense. I want to say this is kind of a waste. But, you know, to kids, it's something probably really cheap, something to fill out world building, and not everybody had the base, not everybody had everything. To kind of have something that your figures can come around and do, and something to shoot down. Well, I mean, this year they didn't have the Rattler, but the Rattler was last year, so this could shoot down the Rattler. Of course, the dog bone holding these ginormous missiles, and it doesn't have the friction anymore to hold it in place very well. You have to either have it all the way up or all the way down. The friction's gone. Now, of course, there's things you can do to get the friction back, but it also rotates, but it can also rotate off. It's kind of pegged in. It's a tab in there, so there it is. And this is air defense. Air missile defense? Air defense. I don't have much to this next one, so I'm just going to show a picture over this. This is the ammo dump, the forward observer, and the rifle range unit. And they're just extra little mini accessory sets that they're kind of cool. They're kind of interesting. It's kind of fun. And then also we did have an accessory pack. Accessory pack number 3. Yeah, so it would be accessories from the previous year and figures from that. But cool stuff. Another figure I don't have is the Listen and Fun Tripwire. I think it's a weird recolor. I don't know why it's red or reddish, orangish, reddish, pinkish. I'm not sure. But it came with a cassette, and it was listed. I don't even know what's on the cassette. And I don't think it's worth like $100 to buy a figure like that. I mean, I pick and choose the few I'll spend $100 on. Definitely not that one. But it is kind of cool. It's something I wouldn't mind having. But at the same time, it's just a goofy repaint that I don't see as a necessity. I think it's kind of a quirky one-off for those that are super hardcore Joe collectors. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this look at 1985, the vintage toy line, everything made, all figures, vehicles, playsets, and everything. And yeah, such a good year. Maybe the best year. Could be the best year ever for G.I. Joe. I'll let y'all decide. Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Teddy Hanger out.